Are you tired of dying? Tired of pressing too many buttons? Do you want to stand in damage over time battles, even Shadow Storm, and come out unscathed? Do you want to tackle most endgame content with ease? If you answer yes, then this is a build for you. Welcome to my Forbbiden Autobomber Herald of Agony build guide. This build is heavily inspired by Yoshi's Forbbiden Tainted Pact build, which is why I call it Forbbiden Autobomber. It offers a smooth, walking simulator playstyle with solid damage and incredible tankiness. It can handle a wide range of endgame content deathlessly, from D17 maps, Uber bosses, to Simulacrum Wave 15 or the field.
Annihilation. Incineration.
The long-awaited event is finally here. Struggle or strangle. The void protects its children. Grip of the infinite. Twin terrors. Time to up the stakes. A veil of safety and security. Another challenger. Struggle or strangle. A veil of safety and security. A dazzling display of survival. Repeat my challenge. Gather more combatants.
I will not be made a fool. So be it. Keep your
burns the meat. Cormac. Mortal.
certain belief overwhelms. You have broken the circle.
know pain. I will bathe this world in blood. Impressive, but futile. Inevitable. You will know pain. You will die. You know this.
Be gone!
Defiance of a thousand suns. Annihilation. Incineration. Crisis.
Challenge me for this realm.
They lie to you.
Amount of my might.
To save the future, the past must be sacrificed.
Resist the assault. Life is so brutal. Amount of my might. Grasp your mortality tightly.
Gaze into the abyss. Sin surrounds you. Feel the pull of the void. Yes, that's it. Death sweeps in. No, impossible. How? This isn't over. This will never be over. I will unify humanity.
Similar to Yoshi's Forbbiden build, the core of this setup revolves around the Tainted Pact amulet, which has a modifier Taking chaos damage over time heals you instead while niching knife. So for this build to function, we must always be niching knife. With the proper setup, we can instantly recover to full knife within milliseconds, making any hit smaller than our knife pool effectively harnessed. To achieve 100% uptime on knife niche, we use a flat suffix that ensures we niche knife whenever we take damage from his. Next, we need to ensure we are constantly taking hits, and the simplest way to do this is to hit ourselves. The most reliable method is using Hurtbound loops, which causes us to take 350 physical damage whenever a minion dies. This damage counts as a hit and will be niched using the flask. Similar to my Lightning Conduit Autobomber build, we use a setup that loops Rage Zombie of Falling and Summon Raging Spirit to trigger the range cell hit effect. However, knife niche expires when we reach full knife, so we incorporate Petrified Blood to enable overreaching. This ensures 100% uptime on Tainted Pact key modifier, resulting in massive healing. That said, infinite healing doesn't matter if we can still get unshot. So let's review the defensive layers this build offers. This sounds pretty solid, but with only 4000 knife and no armor, it might still feel squishy, right? That's where our most critical defensive layer comes in, the Progenesis flask. Using the touch I introduced in part 1 of this guide, activating the flask effectively triple our mass hit. And one important note I forgot to mention earlier, this touch is exceptionally powerful for cast when damage taken builds, because the flask denies damage taken rather than reducing it, so this mechanic doesn't affect the total damage taken, allowing us to withstand much higher physical hits. Since Progenesis doesn't actually reduce the damage taken, but instead converts it into delayed damage over time, we still need sufficient recovery to out-heal the damage over time. As I mentioned in part 1, there are many sources of knife recovery, but for a Pathfinder, the easiest options are knife flask and recoup. However, I prefer to not press additional buttons, so I choose recoup as a primary source of recovery. The simplest way to acquire recoup is through the body armor stasis prison. However, it can be quite expensive, so if you don't want to use it, you can use a setup involves dry charge fire, Annihilation approach, and Forbbiden test as used by Yosis. However, this setup can feel quite clunky. For those unfamiliar with this setup, I will explain briefly. So to make the build immune to elemental damage over time, we use a Divine Flash Keystone. This converts 50% of elemental damage taken into chaos damage. With the Tainted Pact amulet, chaos damage over time heals us, turning elemental damage into a source of recovery instead of harm. So as long as our elemental resistances are higher than our chaos resistance, all sources of elemental damage over time heal us. This is why the build ensures fire resistance is higher than chaos resistance, allowing Discharge Fire and Annihilation approach to provide a significant amount of healing. To maximize the benefit of Tainted Pact, We use the golden rule jewel to reflect poison back onto ourselves. Thanks to Pathofixile's damage and monster life scaling, it's easy to deal tens of thousands of poison damage without heavy investment. When these poison stats are reflected back to us, they fill our 4K life pool in milliseconds. You won't notice much difference between 50,000 and 35 million healing per second in most situations, so exceeding that threshold becomes unnecessary. At this point, the build is nearly invincible, though challenging the 17 maps with extreme damage modes and autos can still kill us. Now, let's talk about damage. This build uses Herald of Agony as the main damage skill. It's a fascinating skill that scales damage through virulence. Each time we poison an enemy, we gain 1 virulence stack, which greatly enhances the Scorpion's power. This makes Herald of Agony the perfect skill to synergize with the shell damage loop. By linking fast-hitting skills with cascade damage taken, we automatically poison nearby enemies, generating hefty virulence and wither stacks. Additionally, the golden rule reflects poison back onto us, granting extra virulence per poison. This setup enhances both offense and defense at the same time. Since the power of virulence grows with gem level, we socket Herald of Agony in this bow. It grants significant gem levels. For those unsure how to craft such a bow, I've included the crafting guide link in the description. To increase maximum virulence, we use voices and a few medium cluster jewels, with the pure Agony notable. To further boost the Scorpion's damage, we add an add-on setup, giving it 100% chance to poison on hit. Although poison damage from our character isn't our primary source of offense, it still needs to be strong enough to sustain healing through own endgame content. For this, I use specific enchantments or allocate the spiritual aid notable, allowing minion damage modifiers to increase our poison damage. Finally, unlike Yoshi's build, this setup is smoother and easier to manage. Once per map, you only need to activate your flash, cast Forbidden Rite, and enable Righteous Fire. After that, you're good to go. No need to reset loops when passing through doors or temporal bubble.